Now with MLS right around the corner, there's just one or two things that we want to touch on here on the channel to give you guys the best head start possible to making sure your strategy that you're formulating the now, that you're putting on the depth charts, you're putting on your whiteboards, your tactics boards, whatever it is you're up to, that you've got all the best available information possible to make sure that the strategy that you're trying to get up and running so that when MLS end season kicks off can get the best head start possible. In the video today we'll be talking about the whole mixture around in-season and classic, as well as really extrapolating and building out the journey you're going to go through this season on MLS, you know, competing for thresholds, for leaderboards, boxes, cards, essence, whatever it is that's going on in it, because MLS competition this year is going to be relatively unlike other competitions that have went before it. But unlike the last MLS video that we've done, there is plenty of data, plenty of, let's just call it writing on the wall for what has been before that would repeat itself again. If you did miss the last MLS video that we did, I'll link it at the end of this one so you can go and check it out, and I'll probably pop it in the description of the video as well in case you missed the end screen at the end at any point in the video. But if you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. If you are brand new to Sorare and you haven't even opened up your account yet, there is a link in the description of this video that will get you $50, pounds, euros, whatever your currency is, of market credit once you've bought 5 cards from auction or instant buy to go out and reinforce your squad. If you do get stuck, if you've got any questions, jump into the comment section. Of course, I'll come and sort you out. By clicking on that link, you support me and all the content here at the channel, so it's the least I can do for you. But yeah, let's just get stuck straight into it, because on the last MLS video, we were more chatting about the pattern of acquiring in-season cards, how Sorare might drop the initial early access batch, how many of them will be available, and subsequently what sort of profile of player should we be identifying, what sort of profile of player could we maybe get cheap on early access to get us into the in-season sooner rather than later. Also on the channel, we've been building a bit of a watch list on Sorare data, and there might be one or two to add to this because that is quite a small short list at the moment, but it's cards that already have in-season versions available that have just made a transfer over to MLS. We'll be adding to this as we fly towards the transfer deadline, and again I'll link this watch list in the description of the video so you can go and check it out no matter when you're watching this. But in preparation for early access, in preparation for MLS, there is no in-season cards we can really go and be bringing into our gallery. We can't go out there and have 3 lineups ready to rock and roll on ice, ready to, you know, get deployed and get played as soon as MLS match day 1 opens. The only thing we can really deal with at the moment is classic cards. Now, no matter where you're at in your MLS journey and your Sorare journey, there's going to be one of two things you're going to be faced with when it comes to what classic cards do you own, are you bringing in, are you strategizing around, you know, your MLS strategy as it were. The first one, and it's probably the most common one that I've came across, is having 3 in-season teams of strength. Now, depending on your budget and your competitive appetite for the game, you're going to end up with something that kind of looks like this. Now, my third team is pretty naff because I've not got a nailed on starting goalkeeper, of course, but you're looking for players of different shapes and sizes, players that can score above 70 points certainly, ideally guys that have some sort of fixture correlation with one another. Ideally every team has a guy or two that is captain capable as well, so that depends on the fixture, you can make the best decision for your primary lineup. And the second one will be, we're going to get some classic smasher cards in to help us out in season as we play 4 in-seasons out of the potential 5 that are available. And these classic cards, of course, generally come at a cheaper price point. There is many more of them available than their in-season counterpart, and generally speaking, you're either going to be using this flex position. You know, you can have 1 classic in with your 4 in-seasons in either goalkeeper or in captain, wherever that might be. It might be a forward or a midfielder. In MLS, it's very unlikely to be defense, of course. And there might be a third option where you're actually trying to set yourself up for both of these things, where you've got 3 full in-season classic complements ready to rock and roll, but you also have enough classic power that you've already got your in-season flex positions ironed out. So really, no matter what one of these two things that you are, there is a couple of things I want to add into the conversation, a bit more food for thought for you coming into this. Because all of these strategy points are going to circle around how can you get in-season cards, how can you get access to MLS threshold. Now, surely some of these out there will be winning cards to just sell them into the market. I totally get and understand that, of course, but even at that, I know from experience of Champion Europe this year, there will become a point where it'll make sense to just keep some of the cards that you're winning. They might not be worth too much in the market, they might be quite low spec, but relatively handy enough, and on their day can be handy enough for you. Now, the theory or the assumption going into this season is that everyone is going to want to have 5 full in-season MLS teams to go out there and compete on the leaderboard and make sure you're bagging that threshold as well. But for me, that couldn't be any further from what will actually end up panning out. Yes, in an ideal situation, we all want in-season players everywhere. We want all 3 teams fully locked and loaded up to the brim with Messis and Pecks and Evanders and Cuchos and Hartels and all the rest of it. But the simple fact of the matter is not everyone will be able to do that for all 3 in-season lineups. Not everyone will be able to do that from match day 1. And for the majority of Sorare players out there, we're going to be in this kind of grey zone, in this limbo between getting to the ideal situation and wherever you find yourself starting from. And although the theory, the kind of assumption going into this is that everyone is going to be targeting that triple threshold, I think what we're going to see as time goes on and once we get the full details released to us is that the triple threshold might not be that great, but it is probably going to be seen more and more as time goes on as a kind of a booby prize. You know, it's something like, hey, I didn't quite get into the star rare category, but I got into tier 1, tier 2, and I bagged the wee threshold as well. And again, no matter what your point of view of coming at this at, where it's going to be, I'm going to set up my classic teams to make sure that they're ready to go, and I'll buy a couple of in-season cards, maybe win a few along the way, and then eventually get myself into the position of having a team. Or whether you're keeping your wallet, keeping your powder dry, and as soon as in-season auctions come out, you're going to go hell for leather to bring them in as soon as possible to get them yielding straight away as soon as possible, is that you need to actually look at the other side of the fence. You need to look at both of these strategies and look at doing your best job to combine them, because make no mistake about it, the number 1 in-season team that you're going to field will not be as strong as the best classic team that you could possibly field. And that might not sound like breaking news or much of a revelation to most of you, okay? But when you are going out there and buying your first in-season cards, if you're looking to get onto the leaderboard for match day 1, 95% of entrants, if they go for the 5 in-season starters or the 5 of 5 thing, especially for all 3 potential lineups, if you're lucky enough to have that, or you're fortunate enough or whatever, to have that size of wallet to bring those cards in, is you will score less points as a result of that. There is no question in my mind, because for every in-season card you're going to deploy, there is a fair chance that there is a classic player that in season you weren't able to afford, the classic version you would be able to afford, and subsequently when they bring in more points, you would then be higher up in the leaderboard. And the reality of the way this is going to shake out for me is quite simple. The top team, your first lineup that you're going to be building for MLS in season, is going to be a leaderboard capable team. And I don't think there should be a lot of pressure on having this top lineup, especially straight away, as having 5 in seasons, because hitting higher on the leaderboard is going to bring you better quality in season MLS cards in due course. The threshold as it stands now, we are speculating, but I do not see this being monumental. I don't see this being a real huge shift of the tides, but it's even having 1 lineup bagging a threshold would be considered a huge win. Now, most people's in-season second team, and I'm generalising here, okay, but that is maybe something that is going to be threshold capable, but you do fancy your chances that, hey, if the stars align and everything falls in your favour, could maybe be leaderboard capable as well. And team 2 making that bridge from being threshold likely to being leaderboard capable is going to be the journey I think a lot of initial strategies go down in the first month or 2, with trading cards, winning cards, and just seeing, you know, new transfers and who are the real movers and shakers in MLS. And for the vast majority of MLS players, cards, clubs, whatever, team 3 is going to be, best case scenario, threshold capable. That's what we're going to be looking for. It's those guys that you like, that score well, but you can't quite back them enough into team 2 or certainly into team 1. And hey, as long as that team number 3 can at least get to the 300 points, the 250 points, whatever it is, then it's going to be job done for that. Now, ideally, we do want all 3 of those in-season teams to be, you know, leaderboard and threshold capable, however you want to think of it as. But in the immediate term, it makes so much more sense for everyone out there to have their top team have that 1 classic card in it that can make a bit of a difference. If you're thinking about being early access in season only, at 1000% with the way prices are going and the way that they will show to be after the in-season cards come, it will definitely make a lot of financial sense in this strategy to buy 1 classic team over maybe 2 or 3 in-season random guys that are, you know, not really 70 capable. Maybe they're more collection pieces and whatever, because that one classic team that you could buy for the price of maybe 2 or 3 in-seasons can only win in-season cards. And sure, maybe they aren't all great, maybe you end up in the lower tiers, but acquiring cards for the cost price of like a classic squad that can populate, especially in the early stages of the season, Team 3 and Team 2 for you, never mind if you strike it gold and you actually get into the really good tiers really quickly and you win yourself something that you would have otherwise been unable to afford that can make a significant difference into the first team. This is, you know, a very much a dovetail kind of situation here where classic and in-season, because MLS, like I mentioned in the last video, has become quite incestual on Sorare, where really MLS cards are only really good for playing MLS to win, MLS cards to play Threshold to compete on the leaderboard. It makes even less sense to ignore the classic and in-season kind of, you know, hand-in-glove element that goes there in MLS, especially compared to what we've seen in, you know, the European section. And this was something I was speaking about quite a lot over the last year, where people saying, you know, oh, I'm going to be an in-season player or a classic player. I've been saying on this channel for the last year or so for the Europe-based stuff, you know, that was just never going to be the case. It was never going to be possible, because the longer you play this game, you will end up in, if you start off in Classic, you will end up in in-season, and if you start off in in-season, there will come a point where you will end up in Classic. And really for MLS, because it's a much more of a contained, incestual kind of microcosm in the Sorare space here, that those two sides of the coin just have never been closer for me. And no matter what kind of starting point you're at or what you think your opening gambit for your strategy is, you know, the point of this video is for a couple of things really. Is number one, for you to consider the other side of the fence, and could you make your money, your budget for your squad work a little bit harder with a little bit extra classic players, and equally to take a little bit of that pressure off the early access stuff, the day one auctions, where it's I've got to get 3 teams of the same standard, of the same quality, because really, like, if you were to go out there and get all the early access cards you want, you're probably going to end up, like I mentioned already, with Team 1 being leaderboard capable, and you're probably going to find as you're building it that getting a classic card in there is going to make the most sense. And then Team 2 and 3 are going to be some sort of halfway house between, make sure you get the threshold, number 1, but number 2, could I get the right captain pick? Could I make the right forward selection here? And maybe this team does become leaderboard dangerous all of a sudden. And we're talking about Team 2 and Team 3 being threshold capable. That means they're going to need 5 out of 5 in-season cards in that team. And if you have a look at all your entries across 3 entries, you would need 15 cards minimum to deploy, never mind the depth and the, you know, the buffer that kind of goes around all that. And sure, that may be something you work towards in time, but certainly from the word go, the thing that will make the most sense is having some classic cards sprinkled into that, just to make sure that, hey, if the market doesn't go your way, if some cards are out your budget, overpriced, there's no availability on the guys you want, you then aren't hurting the strategy by just plugging this guy in because he's in season, and then let's just hope we win the threshold, when you could just spend that same money on a classic card that scores double the points. Maybe a bit of an extreme example, but I think you understand what I'm saying here. I'm very much looking forward to getting stuck into the new MLS competition myself. As you can see, I'm approaching this from the completely classic point of view, but with a few different transfers that might go on. I'm quite happy with the classic allotment I've got to go out and get stuck into it. And for me, this is just going to be a really fun strategy, because I've spent so much money on these MLS cards previously that now the kind of stage my gallery's at is this is just a set and forget situation where I can follow NYC and any cards that do transfer into MLS and just have a bit of fun with it, just roll with the punches. And I'm certainly looking forward to seeing how a gallery like mine that has been, you know, built over the last couple of years with MLS classic cards, very high level, very good collection bonus, just how does that fare in this system? How quickly can I win in season cards? How quickly can I get a 5 out of 5 MLS threshold situation on the go? These are the sort of things I'm looking forward to, but I know a lot of you guys are much more proactive, much more competitive, and are actively targeting the MLS you know, division as a key strategy for you during the European off-season, or even as a zig-to-zag opportunity while the European calendar is still up and running. And for all of you guys, I hope you have enjoyed the video today. On screen now is some other stuff that I've made, including that last MLS video that I referenced earlier on. That's on screen now, you know, in case you want to check that out, of course. If you did enjoy the video, I hope you did hit subscribe, hit the like button, get into the comment section, of course. Let me know your thoughts and feelings as we get ready for MLS 2025. Stay out of trouble, and I will catch you on the next one.